Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another entry in Peden's journal, and I haven't blogged in a couple weeks, but the spring semester is now underway here at the University of Minnesota, and it should be my last. By this spring, I will have picked up my degree in journalism and my minor in communication studies, and after that, I have no idea what I'm going to end up doing. The job market is kind of in the crapper right now. Hasn't been this bad in a long time, so they're out there, but I also understand that I may not be able to get a job right away just because there are so few positions available right now and so many people vying for those spots. So we'll have to see what happens, but not a very good time to be a graduate. In other news, I learned a lot about a blessing in disguise. Last week, my first autism documentary was blocked from YouTube, or muted, because of a falling out YouTube had with Warner Music Group, and in the original version I used a 30-second clip of Matchbox 20's Unwell. They're owned by Warner Music Group, so they asked YouTube to take it down, or they must have done something, and YouTube had to comply, of course. It's kind of unfortunate that the two couldn't reach an agreement, but because of that I had to re-upload the first program. With the only copy of it that I had available on me was on DVD, so I put that on tape and re-uploaded it to YouTube, did some things, and while the downer is that everything that I gained from that first video is essentially reset, even though all the data is still there, by re-uploading it and redistributing it to the sites that I had distributed to before, it almost seems to have been a blessing in disguise, because I've been getting a lot of comments from people on Facebook and some on YouTube lately who've watched it now, who perhaps didn't watch it before. So I've picked up on a somewhat bigger audience, and that's what I refer to in this blessing in disguise. I don't plan on re-uploading every single program to try to get more attention, but it did give me the idea that perhaps I should distribute my episodes more frequently to Facebook and other sites, because there might be people who joined and haven't watched the episodes I produced since episode 1. So it's an interesting lesson that arose out of a copyright dispute, and I can tell you that episodes 2 through 4 and the upcoming 5th episode will not be a problem, because I no longer use commercial music. I've found sites that can distribute royalty-free music, and you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to use them for a program. So I've used music from those sites now. Now that I'm a much wiser video editor and producer. Next thing I want to tell you about is now I have a WordPress site. I have a blogger site for sports, and I activated a WordPress site because these video blogs, there are some people who watch them, but it just doesn't seem like it fits or it gets a giant audience, and I think it's because of the content of my page. It generally is sports. There's some autism. There will be the documentary on multiracial identity that I plan to finish sometime this spring, if not later, before then, and other things. So it's primarily sports and autism, and these blogs really don't seem to fit all that well with the rest of my page. They don't get many views on it, and I haven't been able to engage in too many discussions or receive much feedback over the blogs. And I thought the WordPress site would be helpful to go more in depth with my autism stories, because with this I only have 10 minutes to tell you what I think. With the WordPress site, I can use as many words as I want and talk about things that are going through my mind, and I felt there would be a more appropriate way, or maybe not appropriate, but a more specific way of expressing some stories that I have with my experience on the autism spectrum and other things that happen to come up in between programs, because I don't ignore autism just because I don't have a program that I'm releasing and trying to show to everybody. So if you would like to visit my WordPress site, it's The Autistic Journalist. That's the AUTISTICJOURNALIST.wordpress.com. Again, theautisticjournalist.wordpress.com. Spelled it out for you because I can't put up a graphic on here, and if you need to write it down and you want to check it out, feel free to do that. And we'll see where it goes. I might put up one later tonight. And another thing I want to talk about today is sort of a shameless plug for a podcast show I've been listening to for the last few weeks. It's called the Mixed Chicks Chat, and I was led to it through one of my internet friends or YouTube friends who was featured as a guest. So she posted a link to the site where the show was going to take place, and so I visited, engaged in some discussion. I wasn't able to listen for a couple weeks because of the holidays and I was home, and then I came back and started listening to it again, and they all call me the sports brain. I go by that on my internet moniker. So it's a very interesting show. It doesn't get a lot of viewers per se. They get about 10, 11, 12 that actually tune in during the show. I don't know what the numbers are for the rest of the week, but it's an interesting show, and I looked up the hosts' biographies to try to get a little more information about where they're coming from and get a better idea of where they are in their lives. And I'll put it this way, I have a lot of time or a long way to go before I can get to the top yet. I don't want to say impressed or amazed, because I certainly don't think the odds were against them, but it was interesting, and I guess it was cool to find out that one of the hosts is an actress who has appeared in a few films and television shows. Nothing as far as a breakout role yet, but we know how that can go with Hollywood. And then the other host happens to be an author. I had no idea she was an author, but I guess I should have picked up on that when she said if we could pick a day for her, what would it be? She said October 20th, which is National Book Day. Then I proceeded to ask her, are you a bookworm? She said yes, so I probably should have put two and two together, but that's okay. I'm not being tested. But it's an interesting show. They do have a website of their own. I believe it's mixedchickschat.typepad.com. mixedchickschat.typepad.com. Typepad is like WordPress and Blogger and all these 10,000 other blogging sites that are out there now. And then they have a link to their podcast, which is accessed through TalkShoe. And I guess I'll talk about TalkShoe for a little bit too. If you want to host your own show, and I might if I can ever get the equipment, you can go to TalkShoe and set up your own call and have your show available to listen or download. So you can take the show with you and listen to it on your iPod if you can't be there on the recording date. So it's an interesting show, and I get a lot out of it. And everyone who I've talked to so far, they're all nice, they're courteous, they're all intelligent, and they all just want to engage in a discussion about cultural identity, ethnic identity, and other stuff too. It's just kind of a nice show where everyone gets together, and it's kind of like a half an hour group meeting, which I enjoy. So there's my shameless plug for your show, and we'll see what happens, and hopefully I don't get too many comments or inflammatory comments about the whole idea of race, because I've seen other videos on it and the stuff I read can just be silly, but that's another story. So again, I'm on WordPress. If you want to check out it's theautisticjournalist.wordpress.com, and I will keep you posted on my social justice projects. There will be many more high school basketball games coming up on my YouTube page. I'm working on the Prior Lake Chaska game now, and I will be covering the state tournament in a couple months. I'm excited to do that again. Until next time, this is Mike Peden, closing the journal.